everyone, it's Donna, your practical astrologer, here to talk to you about the full moon on January 28th, 2021. This is going to be the last full moon before the Lunar New Year in February, and so it's kind of the end of the energy, and so it's important, and it's a really intense chart, so there's a lot for us to talk about. I do have some videos on my channel from the Chinese astrology perspective where we do talk about the Lunar New Year time and how it's going to be for that year of the ox. Also check out my book on Amazon, Chinese Astrology 2021, Year of the Metal Ox. It's available now. So this is a pretty intense chart, I mean, to say the least. Of course, the energy has been intense for some time, but you know, when we get to the full moon and we do that opposition sun-moon, emotions can run really high. And so when we take a look at this, what we have is the sun at 9 Aquarius, exactly conjunct the Jupiter at 9 Aquarius. And of course, Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, so it expands everything, doing the opposition to the moon. But also, we are doing that T-square with Uranus and Mars, and we can even pull in a little Saturn in all of this. So basically, we're dealing with 4 planets and 2 luminaries in this full moon. Now, on the surface, a sun conjunct Jupiter sounds fantastic. You know, it brings good health, like a good moral sense, spiritually, you can feel in line, you're ready to climb socially, you're really striving for success, you know, so all of those things can be good, but Jupiter being the largest planet in the solar system and can create such an expansion of your sense of self and your identity that you can go overboard in areas. So you can go overboard in sense of ego, certainly in shopping, buying too much, having too many possessions, but also being ostentatious, you know, feeling like you're not paying attention to other people because, you know, you're the most important person in the room. So a sun conjunct Jupiter for all of us now means that we're going to go through some period over the next couple of weeks where we do this, and it's not necessarily us. Now, if you were born with sun conjunct Jupiter, you've had your entire life to temper this energy and to really use it in a positive way. So it's those people are actually going to be okay. It's the rest of us who are not used to this energy where we could run into a problem. So then that Sun-Jupiter conjunction makes the opposition to the moon and a square to Mars-Uranus. And so this is having this feeling of self-importance and then this ambition magnified by your feelings. And so there is this incredible desire to achieve something big. And so this might be us that we are feeling this, but it could also be something that we're seeing in the world where maybe the government is saying, okay, we're going to change everything now. Or perhaps your boss comes in and says, all right, we have to be number one. And so everybody's got to really buckle down. So this can result in a lot of irritability and almost explosive behavior. Like you go from 0 to really ticked off in no time whatsoever. So you need to be a little careful when you're driving or when you're out around people because it's very easy to get angry. Now, Mars-Uranus in itself is a very strong, ambitious aspect. It's the Mars is the action, and then Uranus rules this innovative thinking, you know, going outside the box, outside the lines, and doing something really different. But when it's put together with the moon, what happens is, you know, carelessness can happen, accidents can happen. You can do this rash behavior where you're suddenly upset with someone, and so you might cross a lane of traffic or something and put yourself at risk. So you have to be mindful of this energy. It's fantastic for, you know, working on your business or even, you know, just thinking outside the box when it comes to your living arrangements or paying down debt or things like that. So it can be fantastic for those things. But in that short moment, it could be very difficult if you're dealing with somebody who you feel is unreasonable or is in your face for some reason. a great way to channel some of this energy would be to be out in nature, far away from other people, and do something like climbing or biking, or even just plain hiking, something where you are expending some physical energy, you're seeing something new, you're breaking out of the boundaries of your everyday living room, that you're doing something different. Now, that can also work in your favor if you're doing something in business and going beyond what you normally do. So maybe you're investigating a new social media platform or a new media to talk about your business or things like that. When it comes to relationships, this could be that you are overcoming inhibitions and asking someone out, or going out with someone who's very different than your normal type and expanding your horizons that way. And speaking of love, Pluto is conjunct Venus, and while this is a separating aspect, it is still there for this 2 weeks because it's part of this full moon chart. And this is about seeking intense love experiences, wanting to escape from the everyday, feeling like whatever type of relationship that you have, that you want to transform it in some way to make it better or to make it go away. It's about stripping it down to what is the essence of it and getting so focused on it to maybe the point of obsession. So in practical terms, that means that you could fall head over heels with someone and be obsessed that they're not calling you as fast enough, or that they're, don't seem as interested as you are. It's also, it doesn't have to necessarily be a relationship. It could be you're suddenly obsessed with a new marketing idea, or obsessed with making money, or obsessed with the news, and so you're following it, even though, the news keeps us informed, but it's not necessarily something that you can act on. So the best use of this aspect, the Venus conjunct Pluto, is to look at where you are obsessed and recognize that there's something that your soul is needing, but it's not necessarily that thing that you're obsessing about. So let's say you are totally obsessing about tiny houses or something like that. Maybe what the truth is that your current living situation isn't to your liking and you're looking for a dramatic change. And so therefore, what can you do in your current situation without maybe, throwing the baby out with the bathwater and, breaking a lease or just leaving all your stuff or something like that? Or if you're obsessing about a person who is not phoning you back, to ask yourself, why are you obsessing about this particular person? Why does it feel like they are the last person you're going to meet? Because it's a very big world. There's going to be more people that you meet. They're going to have the same connection with you because there's just so many people. And finally, of course, if you're obsessing about the news and looking at injustice out there and, digging out conspiracy theories and all of this, is to recognize that you have a certain sphere of influence in your life. And so if you're very upset with the politics in the country and you can run for office, fantastic, or maybe you have time to volunteer for your party, go do that. But if you don't have the time or energy or bandwidth to do any of that, then maybe just turn off the news, or at least treat it like it's the reality program and not the end-all be-all in your life. So let's go around the wheel and take a look at where everybody's at, mostly financially, because that's what I love to talk about, but also where you guys are doing some of these bigger aspects. So when we look for Aries natives, you guys are doing the Sun-Jupiter up in your 11th house. That means you have a lot of luck when it comes to community connections. It means that as you expand the number of friends you have and the people that you know, things get better and better. Now, where your focus and energy needs to be is in that second house of money. That means that you have some major money opportunities and you need to take action about them. But it also, because it's with Uranus, it does mean that you need to do something that is a little bit different. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to rewrite everything, but you do have to make some changes in how you spend money, or how you think about money, or how you treat the money that's coming in. And when we look at your obsession with the Pluto Venus, what we have it is in your house of career and reputation. And so that's where the obsession can be. So maybe you have a difficult supervisor, and so you're very stressed about that. Perhaps you are looking at the overall economy and you're worried about that. This is all about looking at how you can trust yourself, how you can believe in yourself, and then these other external things are not going to be so important. So when we specifically look at your money, you have Uranus, Mars in your second house. So that means you are pulling in money from your 11th house as well as your first house and your 8th house. So that's 3 different houses where money is coming in. 8th house is passive income sources. 11th house is your job. But that first house, which is so important, that says the things that you put your name on, the things that you say, I did this, can bring you money over this next couple of weeks. Now you're also pulling money from that Venus. The Venus is at the top of your chart. That means that money comes from your career. So a possible promotion can be had, or you can find a new job. That Venus is exactly conjunct the 11th house ruler, which means that you can accumulate money through passive income sources or your own business. So that means affiliate marketing or network marketing or so royalties, residuals, family business, all of those things you show over the next 2 weeks, you could really accumulate and have a windfall. Now, you do have a full 11th house, so I do believe that there is money coming in from your regular job, but there is some instability in this because we have so much energy, and there is no aspect between the ruler of your second and the ruler of your 11th, so no connection between Venus and Uranus. So I do expect that there is some, little ruffles in all of this. I don't expect an eruption in your money from career, but that you're getting some messages that are saying that you need to pay attention to this. Additionally, it doesn't show a lot of accumulation, so therefore you're making about the same that you usually make. And finally, when we look at risky investments for you, the moon is there, and so you might be very drawn to do risky investments right now, the bitcoins and things like that out there. But this is not advised this time. There's no sign that you can accumulate money from this source right now because there's no relationship between Venus and the sun. Additionally, because the moon is there and making these difficult aspects with the square to Mars and the opposition to the sun Jupiter, what I would say is just cool your heels for a couple of weeks. If you've been thinking about buying a business, just put it on hold if possible. Mercury is about to go retrograde, and so that can be a problem. So you just want to wait for a few weeks and get out of this cycle. For Taurus natives, you guys are doing some extraordinary energy in your house of career with that sun conjunct Jupiter. You really need to think about how you can get a promotion or move into a job that you really want. This is the time to apply for things that are well outside of what you think your resume can handle, because there could be some really extraordinary openings coming up for you, especially if you know someone already in that industry or you have some connections somehow. And you're putting out a lot of personal energy because of that Mars-Uranus in your own sign. And that says that when things need to be done, you have the energy to do it. So don't put anything off. If you want to get your taxes done, if you need to do more things with investing, if you're moving or any of that, you have the energy this time to get it all done. So really focus and say, I'm not going to be distracted. I'm going to do it. Now, where I see you getting a little obsessed is with something dealing with education. And so it's possible that you're in school, and so you're really focused on, trying to get through some tests or get a project going. Maybe you've found a course that you want to take, and so, something accelerated, and that's fine. That can work, but you might feel so obsessed by it that you buy all the upsells and all that. And that's where I would temper you a little bit to make sure that you're applying the information that you know so that you can, get the entire value out of whatever it is. The North Node is in your second house. It's going to be there for a long while, but it does say that money needs to be an integral part of your life path right now. So that's handling money, bringing in money, being aware of how you're spending money. So, but that's something that is ongoing. You're pulling money from Mercury, which is currently in your 10th house. So the focus for the money coming in is not just your career, but where you are the star, where you are saying, I'm the most important person in this process. So that could be leading a team or putting your name on the report, or having your own business where you are saying, okay, we need more sales. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to make some sales happen. But this month we are seeing that your money is pretty much status quo. So this is more about putting out the effort and not necessarily being able to reap the harvest yet, because we're not seeing accumulation of money happening. There's no relationship going on between Mercury and Jupiter, or even the Mercury-Neptune, which would be the money derived from career. So with those two, what we have is money is pretty much the same. It's going to improve as you are putting your name out there, as you're saying to people, I'm going to do this, but still it looks like the payments for that money may not be coming in right away. Now, of course, with your chart, you always have harmonious energy for taking risks. Now, of course, also Taurus can be quite risk averse. So anytime you step outside of your lane, so to speak, you have the potential to have a greater income. So this would say, find somebody you look up to who is doing the kind of thing you want to do, and see if you can cultivate a relationship with that person. And finally, Mercury is going to go retrograde in your 10th house, and I mention it because it rules your house of money, and so it's going to stay in your house of career for some time. This means that if you are looking for a new job, perhaps if you could wait to sign the final paperwork for accepting the job until after February 20th, and Mercury's going direct. Otherwise, you could regret the job that you take. Consider, just kind of drawing out some of the negotiations, maybe for your salary or things like that, just so we can get past this Mercury retrograde period. So Gemini natives, you guys are doing that Sun Jupiter up in your 9th house for luck with legal matters and education. So that means if you are in some sort of lawsuit or something like that, as long as you're doing the Jupiter, which says fully understanding what's going on, reading the paperwork, signing things, getting things in on time, as long as you're doing that, you have a very good chance. So you want to move that energy forward as quickly as you can. Now, if it's about education, that means you can find counselors or tutors or do very well on tests right now. If there's any sort of standardized test that you take for your profession, this is a good time to consider it. Now, the Mars-Uranus is happening in your 12th house. That means that you might not feel that you have energy. Other people are seeing you do tons and tons of stuff, and yet you're feeling like you're dragging, or that things are taking a really long time. So it feels like you don't have access to this energy right now, but it is there. And so that means to start out your day with a meditation, or to start with affirmations or things like that. If you start on a spiritual note, you'll be able to access the positive energy that this will bring, and that would be, this burst of ambition, this burst of focus. You can like point yourself in a direction and launch yourself with this aspect, but you first have to start with a visualization. And then Venus is conjunct Pluto in your 8th house, and of course this could mean that you're obsessed with sex. I don't talk about that on this channel, so that would be somebody else's channel. Go to them. What I will say is you might be obsessed with investments or debt. And so if you're obsessed with debt, maybe you are, taking the baby steps and getting out of debt. If it's investments, you might have found some new investment opportunity. And so you're trying to focus all your energy. Well, you are focused, but you need to be looking at, the prospectuses and what this investment is is about and all of that, but you could be so obsessed with getting it that maybe you're missing all of the information. So you're pulling money from that moon that is so active in this chart, and it's in the third house. So that says the more communication you do, writing, teaching, explaining things, connecting with people, communicating in general, then the more money you're going to make. So that's where the focus should be. So this is a good time to launch your book or your podcast, or even just, like going out into the world. I know we can't really be interacting with people right now, but just by being under the stars and being seen and then stating what you want to the universe is going to help. Now, you have very good prospects for accumulating money through investments this time, because the moon is making the opposition to Saturn, and even though that's not the best aspect, it's still an aspect, and so that does mean that you have the ability to accumulate money. Now, it's because it's the opposition, it can make it feel like it's risky to do, and it probably is, because you're doing that Venus-Pluto. So it's always good to look at what the downside could be, whether you are selling or buying or just moving your money around, what's the upside, what's the downside, and what is the percentage chance that either of those are going to happen. You also show accumulation of money through your career, because the moon is making a square to Mars, and so it is possible to get a raise or a bonus or additional commission to get some very large sales. If you are working in your business side by side with your employees, you all can do very well. So this is a very good time to be asking for a raise or asking for a promotion. Now, where we see a disconnect is on risky investments. So if that investment that you are so obsessed about is like Bitcoin or something like that, then let it be, because risky investments do not show a lot of money accumulation this time. Now, if it's something super long term, like you're buying a franchise or something, you're not expecting to make anything in the next 2 weeks, then that's perfectly understandable. Go in, do your due diligence. You have great aspects for legal matters, for getting contracts signed and all that. So then it would be okay. But if this is some sort of, quick turnover, get rich very fast sort of thing, it's not necessarily going to pan out this time, because you don't have the aspect. And finally, Mercury is going to go retrograde in your 9th house. This means going back over some education stuff or some legal stuff you've done already. So that could mean that you are renewing some sort of license, but what's more likely is you've done some sort of video course. Instead of buying the next video course, go back over the first one and make sure that you've learned everything you can. Now, for Cancer natives, you guys are doing that point of luck, the Sun, Jupiter in your house of resources from others. That means you can find help. That could be help that is material help, like somebody giving you money, or it can be expertise. It can be that they have all the equipment that you need, that you can borrow it. This does mean that when it comes to loans or grants or any sort of money, government money or institutional money, you have more access to it now. So this is the time to fill out the applications. If you get a no, it means that there's something there that isn't that beneficial for you. So move on to the next institution, fill out another application, do as much as you can in these 2 weeks. Where you're putting out most of your energy is that Mars-Uranus in the 11th. That is community. And so that says to get involved in the community, maybe start doing social media again. And that is not so much consuming, but actually creating content. Look at professional organizations or even charitable organizations and see where you can be involved, because the friends that you make and the circle that you build in this is really going to help you in the future. This is also, of course, your money derived from career, and so we'll talk about that in a second. Where your obsession is in the house of relationships and partnerships. That Venus Pluto is going on there, and that means you might be obsessed about a particular person, or just the idea of having a relationship or having different types of relationships. And so there's a great deal of focus there. And so, and that's understandable that you can get caught up in that, but if you can temper that or recognize that, if you're letting everything be outside your control and you're just being tossed in the wind, that's not helpful. So figure out what is in your control. You can obsess about that, but if it's out of your control, it would be really good to let it go. The moon going through your second house does say that you might be concerned about money, and money matters this time. It is pulling money from your first house, which says that you have to take personal responsibility. You have to say, all right, I got myself into this mess. I can get myself out of this mess. You also can need to recognize that as you put your name on things, as you say, I am responsible for this, more money will come in. So that is going to your boss and saying, I want to be in charge of this project. That can help. Or saying, you know what, I've started this business, and so now I need to work the business, and that can help too. Now, even though you show that you're worried about money, your money derived from passive income sources or business sources actually looks very strong. It's the Sun square Uranus, and so what we've got is potential to really accumulate money. Plus, you have such an amazing 8th house for investments in general. Now, you might say, I don't have money to invest, but that the money that we're talking about could be very small, something where you are, just investing in an app so that you can go out and do business. Maybe you need an app for scheduling your clients or something like that. It costs you, $15 or $20 a month, and that gives you $1,000 clients. That's the type of investment that can really magnify your returns. But you could be concerned about money because we do show a possible disruption in income derived from career. Maybe you're not getting as many hours as usual, or there's something changing in the company itself. Maybe they're going through some downsizing or things like that. So you do show some opportunities for getting a new position, but all of that means that there could be that period of time between paychecks. And so yes, it's, again, you have so many resources and opportunities for people to help you. So ask for the help, because there could be some interruption in money derived from career. And finally, when we do look at risky investments, you do show some possibilities because the Sun is making a square to that Mars. And so that, again, is these things that might be more highly leveraged or things like that, but also maybe you are investing in yourself, like creating something, putting it on Etsy or something like that, which is well outside your comfort zone, but you're going to do it, and looking for things you can do that way. And there's so much information on how to do these things free on the internet. You just need to dig a little bit. You don't need to invest tons of money to do this. But with all risky investments, I always say be very, very cautious. You do still have that Saturn in the 8th, so that means do a lot of due diligence. Really be aware of what you're signing. With that Neptune in the 9th, you don't want to sign something if you don't understand it. And that Neptune can bring a lot of confusion, so just be very aware. And then as we see, Mercury is going to go retrograde in your 8th house of debt and investments and things like that. It's good to re-look at your debt, what money is going out, what you're paying for on a regular basis, what has an annual recurring charge, what has a monthly recurring charge, and see if those are good for you. See if you still like your bank or your broker, and see if you want to make a change there. So for Leo natives, you guys are doing that luck point, the Sun Jupiter in your 7th house. That's relationships and partnerships. And so you can get with your significant other and maybe start a business together, or maybe you're getting married or something like that. But you're getting a lot of support and really like positive energy from a partnership. Now, this also means that you can find people to collaborate with, influencers who are willing to support you, someone to be a business partner with. So you have lots of good energy in this area. Now, we see you putting out an extraordinary amount of energy in your career. This could mean that you're looking for a new job and you have some big opportunities that are coming in. This means possibly negotiating salary, negotiating duties and hours you're going to be working. Maybe you get more than one offer, and so you're going back and forth with people. It also says that if you have a business, you're putting in a lot of effort right now, doing a lot of marketing, being very aware of market changes and how you can expand your niche and all of that. And where you show the obsession is in your daily habits, and it can be either way. Like maybe you are addicted to the dopamine of, scrolling through your phone and it's just taking up all your time. Or maybe you're getting really obsessed with things like habit stacking, where you put one good habit on top of another, and so that it's like a no-brainer that you get up in the morning, and as you do your yoga, and then you do your meditation, and you start the day off right, and then you reach in the fridge and you grab the healthy foods instead of the snack foods, like that sort of thing. So the obsession can be really beneficial. And so you're pulling money in from that Mercury in the 7th house, which says that the more people that you talk to, whether that is virtually or in person, the more money you're going to make. It means you want to reach out to the potential partners, mentors, influencers, direct message people, see who answers. Of course, not everybody's going to answer. Everybody's really busy. They may be doing aspects of their own that are in conflict with your aspects, but that's fine, because if you reach out to 10 or 20 or 50 people, you're going to get responses. Now, you're not showing a money accumulation in your investments this time. It could be that you are investing and putting money out and not cashing in anything. The same with your business. It looks like you're putting out a lot of effort and not necessarily bringing in more than usual. It looks pretty steady, but not this big windfall. So if you're expecting a windfall, it's not coming quite yet. Your money derived from career, on the other hand, shows that it continues to be strong. So that means that if you are getting a new job, there's not too much time where you have no paycheck. It's almost like the two jobs are overlapping. Like you still have one job and you're in training for the next job. And so I'm not seeing much interruption in income at all. Where we don't see good timing is in risky investments. Right now, it does say to cool your heels on anything really risky that you're doing. This is the things where you'd have to put out a lot of money or a lot of time and effort. If you're already involved in something like that, we're just not seeing a lot of money accumulated at this point. So that means that you're probably just going on status quo. If it's some sort of investment, maybe the investment is flat, but more likely it is just not time for you to sell and collect that profit. So it just says to, keep a watchful eye on it, but cool your heels. And then finally, Mercury is going to go retrograde in your 7th house. So that means reach out again to people who did not respond. Make sure that you're not just direct messaging people one time, but say, hey, I sent you this direct message and maybe you're not interested, and that's perfectly okay. But if you are, here's that message again, because I know you're busy and maybe it got lost in your feed and all of that. So you feel like you can reach out to people a second time. Okay, Virgo natives, where you're doing your luck point, that Sun, Jupiter, is in the house of daily routines and work. That means your work could be going very well, although there's going to be quite a lot of work. If you're paid by the hour, that could be fantastic, but there's just a lot going on. But when it comes to your daily routines, you can get new healthy routines and really establish them, really stick to them. Or maybe you're doing regular meditation or something spiritual. This can also be extremely beneficial. Look at having a gratitude journal or do the 5-minute journal or something like that, because what it shows is that's where your luck is sourced. Now, where you're putting out a lot of energy is in your house of education and legal matters. It could mean that you are signing contracts or things like that, or you're pacing because the contract hasn't come in yet. It's also possible that you're in school and so you're taking tests, but this one feels like it needs more work, it needs more study, or that you need to, figure out what the contract's exactly saying and you're trying to rush through it. So you need to expel the energy. Did I say expel? Expend the energy so that you can have a really good outcome, because if you're just rushing through this, it's not going to be as beneficial. And finally, where you show your obsession of Pluto Venus is going to be in that 5th house. 5th house represents children, so you could be obsessed by your kids. Fertility, so maybe you're going in for fertility treatments or looking to adopt, but also it is about creativity and romance. Sorry, I missed romance. I just don't think often enough about romance. My bad. So you could be obsessed by a new person that you met, thinking about them all the time. You can't get them out of your head, and maybe they're not calling you, or maybe they are, and so both of you are obsessing at the same time. And possibly that's okay unless that's interrupting everything else in your life. So you want to be aware of that. If you're obsessing about your kids, it's because it's Venus-Pluto, it's a reminder that most of this is outside of your control, that you've already done what you can as a parent to instill in them, all this positivity and all of that. And now they are, as a soul, making their own choices. And so, yes, of course, you may still be there with the safety net, and perhaps that's really good, but this is to say, maybe it's not so necessary for you to obsess about things that are outside of your control. Now, you are pulling money from that Venus in your house of creativity and also children. And so if you want to start a little business with your kids, that's a possibility. Or maybe your kids know how to build a website or something like that can help you. This is also about your creativity. And so if you're starting something, you want to have that creative freedom, whether that is just that you're designing your own marketing materials, or maybe every part of the business has creativity to it, that you paint murals or you sell something on Etsy or something like that, but you are pulling money from that. Now, if you have something that's more conventional, like you have an accounting firm or something like that, how can you instill creativity in there? Or how can you put the fun in there? How can you put the excitement in there? Because if you can, you're going to do very well. Now, when it comes to your investments, we are not seeing a lot of accumulation of money this time. That means that maybe you're putting money out into investments, but not taking profits right now. This is also the same for your business. Maybe you're doing a lot of marketing, and so therefore money is going out. Not so much money is coming in. I don't see it as being significantly less than usual, but it is not, like huge or big. It's kind of status quo or just slightly less. And so, there's no reason to necessarily worry about this unless it's a long-term trend. This is more about noticing how you can be more creative, how you can do things a little bit different, and that's going to bring you more success. Now, when it comes to money derived from your career, you're not showing the accumulation either, which could mean that you're working less hours, which would be a surprise with this sixth house, because you look like you're working so many hours, but maybe you've cut back on your regular job so you can work on your business, or maybe that you're doing some sort of transition. It doesn't look like you're making much less, but you're making about the same. But working this many hours, I would expect you to be making more money. So maybe you need to look at that, or again, maybe you are investing more of your time and energy in something that's going to pay down the road. And finally, when we look at your risky investments, there's really a strong desire to do risky investments because of the Venus-Pluto there, but you are not showing accumulation of money in this area, and so the timing's a little bit off. That could mean that right now you're putting out a lot of money into this investment. If that is something you've been doing over and over and it's not paying off and you're getting quite obsessed about it, you might need somebody to kind of rein you in. Otherwise, if this is the beginning part of it and you're obsessed with it because it's something new and exciting to do, then that's probably okay, but you're not showing the accumulation yet, which also is possibly okay if it's not time to take profits. And then finally, that Mercury is going to go retrograde in your sixth house of daily routines and things like that. That means to look over your habits and routines to see what you want to keep and what you want to let go of. Also, if you had a previous habit, something you used to do, maybe you were on keto diet, or maybe you were learning Chinese or something like that, you may go back to that habit as Mercury goes retrograde in this house. Okay, Libra natives, you guys are doing your point of luck in this area of creativity, also with your kids and fertility, love and romance. So this is where the luck is. And so if you were looking for romance, this is really good energy for that. If you were looking for help on your fertility journey, you have really good luck for that. If you want to start a business with your kids, that could be something to talk to them about, because there is some positive energy about that. But mostly this is about doing something that is creative, to really expand what it is that you do with your own voice, not copy copying somebody else or getting bogged down in all the little bits and pieces of it, but just start creating. You know, in my life, I really try to create as much as I consume. I'll tell you, it's really difficult because yes, it's so enjoyable to go out on YouTube and see all the amazing videos that people are making. But if I can, continue to create, I feel like there's some balance in my life. And so that's what I would recommend here. Where you're putting out a great deal of energy is in that area of investments, debt, and business. And so it's very interesting. Oh, it's also sex, but I don't talk about that on this channel. So go find that on another channel. So this means that you are very focused on, paying down debts, finding investments that pay money, looking for passive income sources, looking to expand your business. There's a great deal of focus in that area, and that's admirable. The obsession point is that Pluto-Venus in the 4th house. That could mean that you are obsessed with decluttering and getting rid of excess stuff, or there could be some difficulties with a family member, or maybe you're thinking about moving. But your thoughts are very focused on this. And so if this is difficulties with a family member, make sure that you are not obsessing about something that's outside of your control. Or if you are trying to control another person, well, technically that is outside of your control. But if it is, letting go of excess stuff, getting things sold and or off to charity, that's a good use of this aspect. Now, you're pulling money both from that Pluto in the 4th and that Mars from the 8th house. And so that is, as always, you get those 2 places where you can pull money from. And so the 4th house does indicate that you could be pulling money from real estate or renting out a room or something like that, but also just selling some odds and ends from around the house. You're also pulling money from your investments and from doing things with your business. Now, if you're looking to accumulate money through your business or passive income sources, which would be royalties, residuals, affiliate marketing, and things like that, oh my gosh, you do have the best aspect, and that is that Venus conjunct Pluto. So that does mean that over the next 2 weeks, you are likely to make more through these sources than usual. And then, of course, you want to do good things with that money, but you could consider reinvesting it or putting it in savings or paying down debt with it. But you do show ability to accumulate money in this area this time. Now, you have some real mixed energy when it comes to money derived from career because the moon is up there, and so for some reason you are concerned about whether your income from career is stable. Maybe your company is going through some changes, maybe they're cutting hours for some people, but the energy itself is okay because the sun is making that square to Mars. And so I do feel that the money's going to be steady. In fact, it could even be a little up. The sun's not making an aspect to Pluto, so it's not like a huge windfall, but there does seem to be an uptick in this area. So I do expect you not only to have steady income from your career, but also you're going to have perhaps a little bit more. And that also could mean that you're finding a new job and that's paying you a little bit more. So then we come to money derived from risky investments. And of course, that's one of your strongest houses with 4 planets in there. And also, when we look at the Mars conjunct Uranus, that's where a windfall can really happen. Now, and that all said, I always have to say this every time, be super careful because risky investments are by nature risky. And you do have the Saturn there, which means that you need to have a thorough understanding of it. Additionally, what you need to be aware of is Mercury is going to go retrograde in that house. So what looks like it's up one day can make a big change the next day. So that is something to be very aware of. Oftentimes, if it is stock market related, the market will make a correction about a week before Mercury goes retrograde to find the level that people expect the market should be. So if people expect the market's too high, the market will drop. If people think the market's too low, the market will go up. And so what's happening here is what looks like you're about to make some sort of windfall, and then Mercury goes retrograde and snatches it out from under you. So you want to be super aware and very careful about your risky investments, even though it does show quite strong for you this time. So for Scorpio natives, you're showing the luck in your 4th house. So if you are looking to buy a house, you can do very well. If you're looking to rent a new place, you can find a good landlord, a good neighborhood, all of that. Family is getting along in the house. Maybe somebody's moving back into the house and you're happy about it. Maybe you're renting out a room, or maybe you're doing a business in the house and it's just going really well. Now, where you're putting out a lot of energy is in your area of partnerships, relationships, friendships. And so that's where you're putting out the energy. Maybe you're building up your mailing list. Maybe you're getting involved in a new love. So there is a lot of energy expended in this area, and that's beneficial to you. And where you look like you're obsessed is in that 3rd house of thinking, possibly traveling, which you might not be doing right now, but you're wishing you could. But also, writing, teaching, communicating. So maybe you're in school and you're obsessing about tests or things like that, or maybe your kids are doing some standardized tests, and so you're thinking about that. But it's also about how you are speaking to yourself. If you're always speaking to yourself in a way that is very negative or derogatory, which I guess would still be negative, it's time to make a transformation of that, because it's not benefiting you in the least. So you're pulling money from that Jupiter in the 4th house, so that does mean that work that you're doing from home is the best place for you to make money. That means if you can work at home, do so. If you have a business in the home, that's great. If you generally work outside the home, see if you can start something that is in the home, because that's where you're pulling money from. Of course, all things related to real estate also can bring in some money, because that's where you're pulling from. Now, when we look at your money derived from investments or passive income sources or from your business, you're not showing a lot of accumulation this time. There's no aspect between Jupiter and Mercury. That means the timing's off. So it's not time to divest yourself of investments. It's not time to cash in. This is more of a buy and hold situation. It's also possible that you're putting out a lot in marketing, or the business is new and you're just starting out, and so you're not really ready to reap in the profits. Money derived from career is about the same. So you are showing that you're working a great deal, but you're not making more than usual. Not really showing that you're making much less, because Mercury and Jupiter are in the same sign. They're just not speaking to each other. They're not close enough. And so you're making about the same, but it's not showing a great improvement this time. Additionally, when we look at risky investments, again, you don't have an aspect between Jupiter and Neptune, and so there's right now it's hard to cash in on these things. With the Neptune there not making an aspect right now, everything seems more in the visionary state, or that if you do have this more risky investment, maybe you have a franchise that you're getting involved in, or you're getting involved in some other risky investments like Bitcoin or something. This says maybe you don't have all the details that you need to do more research about it, more understanding. Even if you're in the investment now, maybe you need to look at when people do sell these investments, or how do they know when to get out, or things like that. So more work needs to happen with that. And finally, when we look at Mercury going retrograde, it's going to be retrograde in your 4th house. That means you are looking at home and family once again about something. So maybe you were thinking about starting a family business and now you're thinking about it again, or you were thinking about moving and now you're thinking about it again. And that's a sign that you really need to take some action about it. Maybe not all that action happens during the retrograde. Maybe just start to pack a little bit or start to look for new places. But it says that, the universe keeps sending you this idea, so maybe you need to pay attention to it. So this is a really good month for Sagittarius natives, because Jupiter is your sign ruler and it is conjunct the sun, so that is fantastic. Your point of luck is in your area of thinking and communication, so that's where, you can give birth to all the ideas that you need, all the motivation you need. Everything is about changing your emotional state through how you speak to yourself. It also says that if you are putting out any sort of content, it can do quite well. So you could consider putting out content like a book or a podcast or something like that, and it could be very well received. So you want to do that. Where we see you expending a lot of energy is in your 6th house, and that is work and routines. So it is about streamlining what you do every day. If your current life takes up all of your time and you want to add something to your life like a business or something like that, you need to find ways to cut back. And that could be that you're automating some processes, delegating some things, or eliminating some things from your life. And so that's what's coming up as important now. What can you streamline? What can you get rid of? And finally, where your obsession is in the house of money. And so you are obsessed maybe with the prices of things or about saving money, but you could also be obsessed about spending some money. And so maybe it's been on your mind that you wanted to buy something, and so you're obsessively watching the price of this thing, thinking, I'm gonna get this. So watch for that, because maybe that's not so helpful to you as some of the other ways you could be obsessing about money. Now, you, as usual, are pulling money from that Saturn in your 3rd house. It is going to be there for a long time, and this does say that communication, which could be sales or marketing or writing, teaching, things like that, all could be sources of money for you, as well as transportation or things involving movement. So you have a lot of choice when it comes to where you can pull money from, but it all comes down to how are you communicating, how are you connecting with others, whether they be in your sphere or outside your circle. That's where you really want to work so that you can bring in more money. Now, you have a great chart this time for bringing money through investments, passive income sources, and also your own business, because the Saturn is doing an opposition to the moon. It just doesn't feel that great, like you're making the money's coming in, but maybe you're wishing you didn't have to work so hard at it. Or maybe you were thinking that, that there must be an easier way of doing this. But even though the aspect isn't that comfortable, it does still show that a windfall is possible or that you can take some profits. Now, when we look at your money derived from career, it's not as strong because there's no aspect between the Saturn and the Venus. And so that could mean that, it's status quo, that everything's just kind of chugging along. I think that you're not making too much less because Saturn rules Capricorn and Venus is in Capricorn. So we do have this kind of connection anyway, but it's not making an aspect. So what I think is you're making about the same. If you're making any more, it's just like slightly more, 1 or 2 percentage points more. If you're making less, it's about the same, just a couple percentage less than what you usually make. Now, when it comes to your riskier investments, you are showing a possibility of cashing in or making some profits because you are doing a square between that Saturn and Mars. As always, you want to be very careful with these risky investments. You still have Chiron going through this house, which means that, Chiron's where you've been wounded, and we don't want this wound to be something that's happening to you. Because that Chiron is involved also in this aspect, so be super careful. But some profits could be taken this time. You could have some sort of windfall from a riskier investment. Maybe you're doing some penny stocks or something like that, but be cautious because that Chiron is still there. And finally, that Mercury is going retrograde in your 3rd house, so that means that you have to be a little bit mindful of your communications, especially to other people. So watch that autocorrect, watch that reply all, make sure you don't accidentally hit something and send it out before you've really looked at it. But also look at how you're speaking to yourself. Are you back to negative thinking? Are you back to like a defeatist attitude? You know, after speaking to yourself so positively, are you then dumping on yourself? And get out of that habit. So for Capricorn natives, your point of luck is in your house of money. Yay! So that means that you do want to focus your energy on making money. And you do that by, you know, doing money meditations. Maybe you're lighting a metallic gold candle to bring in more money. Certainly talking to your friends who are good at money. Maybe listening to people who have a reputation about being good at money, and then also taking action that is going to make you more money. Where I see you expending a lot of energy is in your house of creativity. It's also the house of romance and children and fertility, and so you might be spending energy on those things. I mean, maybe you are looking to get pregnant, so you're putting a lot of energy out there. That's perfectly fine. You know, or you are focused a lot on your romantic life, and that's fine too. But you know, I usually focus on money, and so that's what I want to talk about. And so this is your house of creativity, and so you might be doing creative projects, maybe to put them out for sale somewhere, and so that's where you're putting your energy and focus. And where you're obsessed is something personally about you. Maybe you gained some weight over this COVID stuff, or maybe you're just not liking that you're getting older or something like that. But there's something physically that you might be obsessed with. And if it's something you can change, that's great, you know, through maybe healthy eating, diet, exercises, whatever. But if it's something you can't really change, or you can't change now, see if you can't shift your thinking elsewhere. Now, this also can be that you are obsessing about a relationship that's going on. And so again, what is it that you can control? If you can't control their actions or what they're doing or what they're saying to you, just remove yourself from the situation if you can. Now, with such a full second house, you are pulling money from every which way possible. That means you are not limited to money made from passive income sources. You're not limited to money made from a job or even a side business. Money can come to you from so many different places. But where the focus is on that Uranus in your house of creativity. So that is, the more creative thinking you do, the more money you're going to pull. It also says that you need to look at how you can be unique out there in the marketplace, and you're a unique soul anyway. So you know, yes, there's a lot of people who do videos on predicting what's happening for the new moon, but I have my own training in astrology, you know, that I've done for how many decades? We won't go into that. And so I have a unique perspective on that. And so you come to my channel because you can get information, and then it's perfectly fine. You can go off to all the other channels and get their perspective too. And the same thing goes for you. How is it that you know, you think that maybe everybody else has done this already when you actually have a unique perspective? Now, you have a really great aspect between Sun Uranus, that square for bringing in passive income sources and money from your business. So it's right now you do show that you can really accumulate money there. Unfortunately, the moon's there, so you're feeling very nervous about investments. You're feeling very nervous about your business. And, you know, all of that can have a very good reason, and maybe it's time to cash out. And that's why the moon is there, so that you are paying attention to this and getting ready to take your profits. You're also showing some good possibilities for money derived from career, of making more money, because the Mars is conjunct the Uranus. And so it might be that you're getting a bonus or more commission or a big sale or something like that. You could be getting a new job that's going to pay more. But I do see that that's probably your strongest area for making money. I would have said that the money from investments would do it, but with the moon there, it feels like you're too nervous to really act on some of the things. And you know, you should trust yourself. So if you are feeling nervous deep down, there could be some real reason to not invest. So be aware of that, but also recognize that there are so many different ways for you to make money this time. When it comes to risky investments, that's where I draw the line. You are not doing an aspect between Uranus and Venus, and that means that when it comes to risky investments, we show no money accumulation. So it's potentially there's a loss, but of course, if you don't sell, there's not a loss. So it might be that you're just making about the same. What I feel like is going on is is that it feels a little volatile because of that Uranus Mars in your house of risky investments. So, if you're feeling like you want to jump into something, please hesitate. Please wait, because it's not quite time yet. And then Mercury is going to go retrograde in your house of money. And that does say that it's important for you to look at how you handle money. Maybe you used to do a budget. Now you need to do a budget again. Maybe you were doing cash envelopes, but you got tired of doing that. It's time to do that again. So look at the good habits you had around money and see if you can't implement those a second time. So Aquarius natives, you guys are doing the luck point in your first house because it is in Aquarius. Yay! So this means that you are the source of luck. That is, if you go and do something, there is not just luck for you, but luck for everyone you take with you. So that's really good news. It also says that as you take more chances, as you put your name on things, it is noticed by more people. So whatever you do right now will expand. So focus on positive things. Now you show you're expending a lot of energy at home and around family. So this could mean that your family's needing help, that you're all, coming together because you're supporting each other. It's possible that you're moving or taking care of some rental property. So you're expending a lot of energy in this area. And where you show your obsession is either in spiritual areas, like you've getting into tarot cards or channeling or something like that, or you are obsessing about things that are completely out of your control, things that are hidden. That would be conspiracy theories or things like that. That, of course, is not that beneficial, because if something's out of your control, it doesn't help to think about it. You can't influence it in any way. So look at the things that do have your attention now. Ask yourself if you can make a difference in that thing, and if you can't, move on to something else. So when it comes to where you're pulling money from, you're pulling money right from that second house. That means that, when you focus on money, when you pay attention to your money grows. And so it's very important not to zone out about your money, but to know how much is in your checking account, how much is in your wallet, to be aware of your spending as well as your savings. Now, you don't show a very strong chart this time for money derived from investments or business opportunities. So it shows about the same as usual, especially if you are really leading it. If you have just told some broker to, take your money and do whatever, that could put you in a very difficult situation. So you want to be monitoring your statements, really look at what they're doing. But if you are, in charge of your investments, it's kind of status quo. You're not seeing opportunities necessarily to take profits right now, but everything seems to be just kind of chugging along. We also don't show a very strong money derived from career. Again, I'm not showing big dips in this, but more that you're not accumulating extra money. So you're making about the same as usual. Maybe a little bit less. Maybe you're working a few less hours, or maybe a side business is not bringing in quite so much money. So in general, the money seems to be about status quo. And then when it comes to your risky investments, you do have an opportunity to connect with somebody who can show you the ropes on a risky investment, but you don't show accumulation of money in this area. So this is more about looking at whether you should invest, exploring the possibilities, thinking about it, but not actually jumping in quite yet. And then finally, Mercury is going retrograde in your first house. This means to take a look at your own confidence, your own personal habits, how you are connecting with other people. If you're being really a hermit at this time, if you're out in the woods somewhere, it might be time to reconnect with other people. You've got the moon in the 7th house. Maybe something is going on in relationships that has stressed you out a bit, but it's time to go back and look at this again. And so Pisces natives, you guys are doing your point of luck in your house of spirituality and psychic ability. It means you are more psychic than usual, which is really saying something. It means that you have access to guardian angels and guides. And so doing any sort of meditation, light some candles, do some chanting, affirmations, things like that, can have some exponential results in any aspect of your life. So it is time to get back into your spiritual routine. Where I show you putting out a lot of energy is in writing, teaching. So perhaps you're in school, maybe you're taking some standardized tests, maybe your kids are taking tests. Also, you could be writing a book or a screenplay, doing a podcast. You're putting out a lot of energy in this area. And then where your obsession is around community, but also the future, you know, where society is, where technology is going. And some of that is well within your control, you know, learning new technology, seeing what technology works in your life, Xing out the stuff that doesn't. But if it's outside of your control, you know, like if you're worried about implants or, you know, like cybernetic organisms taking over and things like that, those things are outside of your control. So be aware that you could be obsessing about these things, but you can't do anything about it. So try to release that obsession. Also, the same with communities. Maybe you are in some sort of group or organization and you're obsessing about the board of directors and things like that. So just look at, again, what can you control, what can you not, and let go of what you cannot control. Now you're pulling money from that Mars in your house of communication. So the more you communicate with others, the more you do social media or write or teach or things like that, the better off you're going to be. This also says the more you are kind to yourself and that you are telling yourself, you know, the things that you would tell anybody else in the world, that's where you're going to really help yourself. Now, you are not doing an aspect between Venus and Mars, which says that accumulating money this time through investments or through your business is not really happening. So it's more likely that you're just putting the energy out there, and so you might be making the investments now, but not accumulating. Now, we do have that connection that Venus rules Taurus and Mars is in Taurus. So if you are making more, it's just slightly more. I don't think you're going to make any less because of that connection. So maybe you're making 5% more, 10% more, but you're not having this huge amount to accumulate. Now, money derived from career is a much better story, despite the fact that Pluto Venus is in there. The Pluto Venus may mean that you're underpaid, that you still are struggling to get a better position, but you do show the ability to accumulate money this time. So maybe you are working more hours, maybe some commissions coming in from the past. If you're getting a new job, you can make substantially more because that Pluto Venus would say that you would definitely be negotiating for a better salary. So consider that it is possible that you are making more money through your regular career. When it comes to your riskier investments, you are doing that square between Mars and the Moon, so you can accumulate money through risky investments. It does show that because the Moon is in the 6th, that maybe you need to spend a little bit more time and energy on this business to really maximize it. Of course, I always want to caution you with risky investments to really understand and know what you're doing. With a Moon square Mars, you can take very impulsive action and not really be paying attention to all the ramifications of what you're doing. So I want to just make sure that you know what you're doing before you take a step forward. And when you do have an opportunity to gather some profits. And finally, that Mercury is going to go retrograde in your house of spirituality and psychic ability. So if in the past you have been working on those things, like you were, studying to do automatic writing or the tarot cards or something like that, it's time to go back to that. If you had some good habits like a morning meditation or some yoga practice, time to go back to that. It's this opportunity to look at these things again. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe and stay tuned because LaRue wants to say hi.